Hello and welcome to FatbossTV. Today we're looking at Kargath Bladefist on Heroic from the Warlords of Draenor beta.
Yes, and this is the first fella you're going to be meeting in the whole of Warlords of Draenor, first boss ever.
Yeah.
In Highmaul, and of course Highmaul's the first instance, so this is going to be your first ever boss, and he's pretty decent actually. In comparison to stuff like Butcher, he's like 60 times more complicated, which doesn't really make much sense in terms of instance progression, but regardless, this boss is pretty goddamn awesome.
For a first boss, he's definitely one of the better ones we've seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the course of expansions. But yeah, he's very, very decent boss. But let's go into it. Let's talk about the mechanics like we always do with these videos. And to start off, let's talk about what the tanks need to worry about.
Now, the boss has a mechanic called Impale. What this will do is that he will cast this on his main targets of the tank, of course, and he will pick them up, stun them for 8 seconds, and do, like, ticking physical damage on them. It's about 55k per second on the tank. And afterwards, once that's over, and if they survive it, they will take more damage from the next Impale. And the debuff lasts about 2 minutes, and the boss does it every, like, minute or so. So, of course, what do you have to do, Lawrence? You have to tank switch.
Yeah,
very simple.
You have to taunt on too, but you don't necessarily have to taunt because of another mechanic where the tank actually gets thrown into the stands.
Yeah, we'll cover that in a minute.
We'll talk about that when we get to it. Now, as you may notice, the boss sort of has a shadowy figure of himself that's running around and seems to be running to random targets. All it does is that when he reaches that target, it'll do AoE around that target and to that target. So pretty much throughout this entire fight, everyone needs to remain spread by 7 yards. And that's all that mechanic does.
Yeah, you can't avoid it in any way, shape, or form. He just dashes to you, make sure that you're spread out.
Now, as you guys might have noticed, there's these skull piles on the floor. These will actually erupt, and they'll, like, create a pillar around them that will start belching flames around them, dealing AoE damage to anyone who's actually within the animation. One thing that's really, really important about these pillars is that if you drag the boss over one of these pillars, it'll interrupt the boss, and it'll, like, momentarily... It doesn't really stun him, but it sort of just prevents him from doing whatever he's currently doing.
He just kind of gets angry. He's like, oh, goddamn, these flame pillars are goddamn... Okay, now I'll go back to the boss
And the
fight.
flame pillar actually does eventually despawn when he does hit it, but they'll come back up as the fight progresses. We didn't actually get a timer when they came up, but they come up frequently enough for you to use them when you need to use them. And the main time for you to use them is when the boss casts an ability called Berserker Rush.
Now, Berserker Rush is basically Kargath will focus on a ranged target and go, ah, fuck you, I'm going for you, and constantly doing a shit ton of cleave damage towards that target. And the longer he's chasing them, he gets a stacking buff that increases his movement speed and his damage, and it's scary as fuck. So what you need to do, if he does focus on you, make sure you get him so he charges through one of these fire pillars. And if he isn't facing you, run from him, because you don't want to be in his cone. You've got to make sure you're out the way, because it really does fucking hurt.
Oh yeah, it'll pretty much one-hit you, especially towards the end of the cast when his stacks are a lot higher. But ideally, this more or less always targeted range. So what you want to do as a ranged class is that when you know that it's coming up, it doesn't come in that frequently, so you can get a feel of the fight once you know exactly when he's going to do it. Position yourself in such a way that you are very, very close to a pillar, so you can get behind it easily without having to do laps around the entire room to actually get him to get close to one of them. But because it is physical damage, if a target can't get behind a pillar, or if you want to leave a pillar up for some reason, maybe you want to use it later on in the fight, you can bop targets. So that target runs for as long as they possibly can, and just before the boss reaches them, you bop them. The boss will just stand there wailing on that target. Because he's bopped, he won't take any damage, because it is for all physical damage. But realistically, you don't need to do this. Maybe you need to do it on Mythic, though. So apart from those 3 mechanics, the boss will also do something called Chain Hell. Before the boss casts this, he'll knock back everyone in the middle of the room, so he'll just tell everyone to get the fuck away from him. And then he'll pick his 5 closest targets, he'll chain them up, and then throw them into the stands.
So apart from this ability looking fucking awesome, when you're actually in the stands, you've actually got to do some shit. You can't just watch the fight, because there's a bunch of ads up there which are causing problems for the people down in the arena, and they kind of spawn throughout the fight, and then you've got to go up there, clear them out, and then after 45 seconds you get thrown back down anyway. So,
or if you reach below 30% health.
Yeah, so you got to be quick, go up there, make sure you don't go really, really low on health, try and clear up as many ads as possible, and then get thrown back down.
And because of the nature of Chain Hill picking the 5 closest targets to the boss, you want to send up the tank that has the 2 Impale stacks. You want to send up a random healer, it doesn't matter what healer, and then 3 DPS. And ideally the DPS you want to send up like classes that have lots of cleave. Dotters were also kind of good. We felt like Boomkins were really good for the job. And then essentially when you're up there, you need to kill the Drunken Bile Slingers. They're the worst, because they're the ones that affect the group in the arena the most, because they're throwing down like slime and shit, and if you stand there, it does ticking damage. But while they're up there, they actually do a breath that stuns targets in front of them, so you got to make sure that you don't, if you are going to DPS them, they DPS them from behind. There's Iron Bombers up there. that will throw bombs down below that just does ticking damage to the raid. It's just AoE damage. You totally can't avoid it. When they die, though, they will actually drop bombs upstairs in the arena, so you need to make sure you avoid these. These are the ones that will pretty much knock you down below 30% health. They're the biggest thing to worry about. So when they do die, you need to make sure you get the hell away from them. And there's also grunts up there, but the grunts do like literally nothing.
So yeah, they're kind of like little
they slow your tank. Pretty much.
No, shame.
Yeah. They're not a big problem at all.
But yeah, it's a pretty awesome mechanic, and really the whole fight kind of revolves around making sure that you have a good group to go up there and clear it out. Because if you have a shit group that go up there and you don't last long, or you don't kill many of the ads, you start getting overwhelmed with the amount of shit. Like mainly the bombs and mainly the slime on the floor. It just gets so chaotic because considering the room is quite full with all these fire pillars anyway, and you've got to remain spread by a little bit.
And there's pits of tigers that we didn't pick up on. Actually, you probably should have said that at the start of the video. There are pits with tigers in them. If you move into the pits, in Gladiator style, you get one hit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. So there we go. Yeah. That's even worse. So yeah,
you've got to avoid them as well.
Yeah, space is quite a key thing to try and manage in this fight. So you can't allow these ads up there to try and take away your space. So you've really, really got to make sure that you do send a good, strong group up there by making sure the 5 closest people are people that you actually want to send. Send them up there, clear them out, come back down, and just rotate. You just
rinse and repeat. So the next time that the chain hell comes in, the tank that didn't go up first would now go up second because he'd now have 2 impale stacks. The first tank stacks would have dropped, and that's how that works. And the people you send up, it doesn't matter as long as they're people that can do enough damage to the ads so they die. I mean, that's why we thought dotters were the best, because you could do a little bit of extra damage before you jump down or before you reach that 45-second mark. But yeah, that's ultimately the fight. You just repeat from that point, and
it's a pretty goddamn awesome fight. The spectacle,
and he doesn't die.
He doesn't
die. No.
Oh,
he runs away.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Spooky.
I don't know how important he is to the
well, he had a whole video about him.
Yeah, so he's probably quite important.
He's probably quite important. But yeah, awesome fight. Very nice little arena-y thing. Very good first boss overall. So good job, Blizz.
But thank you very much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy this little preview, then please do drop us down a like. Helps us out a lot. And of course, we'll see you on the live stream.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.